time placement for when Elizabeth gets yoinked by Baby is one of those mysteries that a lot of people have different answers to. The reason being, it depends on a lot of information on Afton's motivation that we currently don't have. But how about we actually look at what info we got and come to the most solid conclusion of when Elizabeth gets scooped and Circus Baby Pizza World cancelled its opening. The first thing to consider is Elizabeth's age when she was killed. Since she had a proper bed in the FNaF 4 minigames and not a crib, then she would have been older than 3 years old in 83. I think it's a fair assumption to make that Elizabeth is probably like 6 to 8 years old when she died, so whenever she got killed, it was probably not long after the bite of 83. So this removes it being set after FNaF 1. And one thing to note, before you comment and say that HanUnit says that Circus Baby's Pizza World opens after a Freddy closes, if you actually listen to the rest of the sentence, he's not talking about the Pizza World, he's talking about the rental service, because his literal next sentence is talking about the rental service. Next thing to discuss is the unlikelihood that this incident happens pre-1983. The reason people believe Elizabeth dies before the bite is because of Elizabeth's empty room and Afton watching bite victim in his underground bunker, and what bite victim saw is theorized to be Elizabeth's death. But here's the thing, none of these points help prove Elizabeth dies first. Elizabeth's room being empty doesn't mean anything since we never see the parents as well in their home. The bunker didn't exist yet at this point. While we do see the layout of the FNaF 4 minigames, it is simply not the real house and Fredbears. The other observation rooms are underground as revealed in Therophobia, so if these two rooms are underground, then the third observation room is also underground, so the bunker likely didn't exist yet while Fredbear's was open. And the last thing is that bite victim did not see Elizabeth getting scooped, because if he was there, Baby would have saw him. She is programmed to count the children that enter her room, so she would see bite victim and not have scooped Elizabeth. And the big thing that disproves this incident being placed before 1983 is, why would William make these robots in the first place? Afton would not have the motivation for making machines like these that early in the timeline. He would not know about possession until after the bite and the murder of Charlotte. Next thing to talk about is the purpose and workings for the star attractions. From what we gather from their blueprints, Funtime Foxy and Ballora distract and lure, and Funtime Freddy has a storage tank which could contain a child, which we see an outline of. Then we have Baby, who is supposedly built to kill, but what I think a lot of people miss is that there's an outline of a child in her blueprint as well, which means she is built to capture like Funtime Freddy, which would actually make sense, since if the purpose of the Funtimes is to kill, then why would Afton make only one robot to kill while the others didn't? And what would be the purpose of the Funtimes killing every child they see if Afton wanted to experiment with possession? He would need live victims to see what would happen for himself, rather than tainting the same animatronic over and over. So I think it's more likely that Baby wasn't supposed to kill her victim, but capture them, and Elizabeth's death was an accident. I think the whole purpose of the pizzeria is to be a hub for capturing kids for Afton's experiment, just like Circus Baby's Pizza in the novel trilogy, where the Funtimes are made to capture, not kill. At least, not kill during the day. But is there evidence for it in the games? Yes. One detail I want to bring up is the fact that in Help Wanted 2, in the breaker room, we reboot power to the Pizza World, meaning the facility is built under the pizzeria, which would make sense since the description of sister location introduces us to Circus Baby's Pizza World. This is important because what do we see in the facility? The nightmare experiments. So what if, when Baby and Funtime Freddy capture kids, they send them down to the facility to either be put in the nightmare experiments or something else? But since Baby accidentally kills Elizabeth on the first day, which she isn't supposed to do, Afton cancels the whole operation. The only thing that throws a wrench into this whole thing is the claw itself. This thing does not look like it's supposed to capture, but this could just be a case of Scrap Baby modifying her claw to be able to kill people. One big thing to consider when placing Elizabeth's death on a timeline is Afton's reputation. What I mean by that is, in every continuity, after the missing children's incident, Afton changes his real identity because everyone knows he did the murders. It's said in the novels, Frights, Tales, and most likely the movie, because why would he change identities if no one thought it was him? And since everyone knows Circus Baby's Pizza World is owned by Afton Robotics, I don't think the public would be very excited that an obvious murderer opened a new restaurant. That's why it doesn't seem plausible to place Circus Baby's Pizza World's cancellation in 1987, because Afton already changed identities, changed his appearance so no one would recognize him, and hide in plain sight in FNaF 2. Why would he do that and then go back to his real identity and open a restaurant? That doesn't make sense. The police know it's him, and is the reason why they want to contact the original restaurant owner, because Henry could have vital info on Afton. There would be no other reason why they would contact him. So, Afton opening Circus Baby's Pizza World after FNaF 2 doesn't really make sense. And also, no, people didn't know Afton or Afton Robotics opened Circus Baby's Pizza in the novels. And this perfectly segues us to my next point. If Afton is on the run after the missing children's incident, then he would not be able to open Circus Baby's Pizza World after the missing children's incident. Again, it's the case of everyone knowing that Afton did the murders, but not enough proof to convict him. So if he opened a restaurant, no one would come. There's also the fact that Afton views the missing children's incident as his crowning achievement and is tied with them. In the novel, he comes back to Hurricane and takes a job at the abandoned mall Freddy's resides in, so he could be with his family. In the movie, he stays with his children. So this could be applied to the games. After the missing children's incident, Afton skips town, like he did in the novel, then he came back when the new and improved Freddy's opened. Then after he skips town again, he comes back again to the abandoned FNaF 1 location. That ties in with the FNaF 3 trailer. The kids say Afton will come back. He always does. Every time Afton leaves, he always comes back to them. He is linked to them and doesn't want to leave them. For Afton to kill the 5 kids and then shift his focus on a new restaurant with fresh victims wouldn't make sense, because everything he wanted to achieve is with them. Why would he abandon that and go with Circus Baby? So you might be asking, why would Afton build the Funtimes before the missing children's incident? Well, it's probably because of Charlotte's death. The music used for the security puppet minigame is Alchemist's fantasy. The alchemist being Afton, wanting what Charlie has, the secret to immortality. So Afton would create the Funtimes to capture kids to be experimented on. We then have the spring suit that came from Circus Baby's Pizza World. The fact there was a spring suit at all at Circus Baby's Pizza World tells us that it had its test day before the banning of spring suits, which was shortly before the missing children's incident. People, myself included, tried to spin this into thinking that since it's Afton's company, he did whatever he wanted, and hid the spring suits from Fazbear. But here's the thing, Fazbear's would know if Afton had a spring suit in his pizzeria. They already read through the Funtimes blueprints and asked William about the interesting design choices, so I don't think they would miss a spring suit that is supposed to be used by a worker. And while it was never used by a worker since the place shut down, as stated by Baby, it was definitely used in ways it wasn't intended. Which, alright, bear with me here. If we have Phone Guy saying that a sister location had an incident where a suit's multiple spring locks failed at the same time, and we have a game called Sister Location which has a spring suit that Baby said was used in ways it wasn't meant to be used, I would think these two are very connected. And no, the sister location is not Fredbear's, since it would have been shut already, and Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are already at Freddy's from the previous tape. And the bite is not a spring lock failure. No one was wearing the suit. The jaw is just strong, which we saw in full action. And the sister location is not just a different Freddy's pizzeria, because a sister location comes from a sister company of Fazbear's, a sister company like Afton Robotics. Another thing to point out is that Afton would have had to cover up his daughter's death. The gas leak was used as an excuse for the restaurant to shut down, but Afton still had to cover up his daughter's death, since people will notice that she's never seen. So what if Afton told Fazbear's that she was killed by the Night Force spring suit, which would also explain her mangled corpse? That's how the suit was used, but not the way it was meant to be used. It was dangerous, and that would lead to Fazbear Entertainment banning all the spring suits. The banning of spring suits in general has to have a big reason to happen, because Fazbear's, heck even the founders, were just fine using these death traps for many years and for so many restaurants. So what big reason would it have? The spring suit is supposedly responsible for the literal death of the co-founder's daughter. I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty good reason to ban them all. There's also the fact that a poster of Circus Baby is in the It to the Pit game. Her existing the day of the missing children's incident is very suspect. The memory Oswald is shown from the ball pit is from 1985 and only 1985. So for Baby to be here and the ball pit to remember it is very telling that Circus Baby's Pizza World was cancelled shortly before the missing children's incident. So if Circus Baby's Pizza World was cancelled in 1985, shortly before the missing children's incident, then how does it affect the story and Afton? Well, my timeline would be like this. After Charlie died, Afton saw that she had seemingly come back through the security puppet. That gives Afton the motivation to want to create that spark of life. So Afton makes Circus Baby, and their goal would be to capture kids to experiment on them. But after Elizabeth dies and the plan is ruined, the place shuts down. Then Afton notices that Elizabeth is possessing Baby. So now Afton wanted to recreate the accident. So he commits the missing children incident himself and is successful. Somewhat. And he becomes obsessed with his new family, leaving Elizabeth to rot in the bunker. So, what do you think? Do you think I'm correct with my theory? If you do, or if you don't, comment down below and let me know. And if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, all that jazz, and have a great day. See you on the flip side.